My father and I are starting to remember something from long ago. It's been on my mind since this morning. My childhood, one I don't remember much at all. Yet today, something happened that I think reminded me of way back then. I woke up to the smell of something burning. Apparently my wife had left the oven on all night with food for me to eat after getting off work. Can't blame her though. I'm usually hungry after work, but last night the moment I hit the bed, I was out. So the fault lies on me for not checking like I should have. No damage was done, thankfully. However, the incident wriggled in my head like a worm in an apple. Déjà vu is probably the best way to describe it. The smell, the smoke, the alarm, and the incident itself felt so familiar. Felt as though I'd lived through it. I figured at first that it had been from a dream, or maybe I'd read it somewhere. Maybe my brain picked up frequent patterns that created the scenario. Our brains work in mysterious ways after all. Heard your wife almost burned down the place. My father had come over to help assess the damage. He's the jokester type, so all the while he was here he told one joke right after another. Well, dinner's ready. God, Freddy, what were you trying to do? Cook it back to life. See, that's what I call a sunburn. Think you burnt it a little. Smells like Agnes in here. Agnes? I recognize that name, or at least I feel like I do. I don't know from where, but it was a name I knew well. Somehow, so I asked him, "Me, who's Agnes, Dad?" Dad, no one, forget it. Me, what do you mean forget it? You can't just bring up a random name and not expect me to. Dad, it was a joke, Freddy. Hell, I don't know anyone named Agnes. Now hold on, I know that name from somewhere. Why do I know that name, Dad? Dad, is it not a common name? You probably saw it while looking for baby names. Me, what are you not telling me? Dad, get off my back about it. I just said a name, no big deal. Me, who is Agnes? Dad, nobody? All right, nobody. Don't dig into me like that, damn it. I'm your father, for Christ's sake. I would have let it go right then, but I then wondered something. Me, did the oven burning make you remember? My father stayed silent. Not silent like he didn't want to answer my question, rather like he was lost in thought, as if his mind was being flooded with multiple alarms, telling him to remember. Me, Dad, are you okay? Dad, Agnes. That was your mother's name. How could I forget that? I was shocked. I knew that name, but honestly, I didn't think it'd be the name of my mother. After standing in silence for a while longer, my father went and took a seat in the living room. I followed him, helped the old man sit, and asked him, "Me, what happened to Mom?" My father began to shake a bit. His eyes darted around the room in sporadic patterns. Dad, it was hot. I tried, but that thing, it was larger than me, and that laugh. My dad had begun to sweat. I tried to hold his hands to calm him. I'd never seen him like that. He was scared, jumpy, as if there were something out to get him. We've lived close to the Appalachian Mountains all our lives. I know I've seen all manner of strange things out here, and I know damn well my dad has too. This, though, whatever was crawling back into his mind, he wasn't ready to relive it. I tried asking other questions, but I decided to leave it be until he calmed down. He's taking a nap now on the couch while watching some boring golf game. I also decided that this weird incident should be documented in some way, hence me writing this. I'll end this post by asking you, reading this. Have you ever experienced anything like this? A surge of memories like what my father just went through, or maybe that feeling of déjà vu I felt. Edit, my father started talking in his sleep. More mentions of Agnes, my mother, but he's also speaking strangely. Not necessarily another language or anything like that. It's just what he's saying, it doesn't sound like it's him talking. Edit 2. I took the day off work as much as I shouldn't. I decided it'd be for the best. Dad is now awake. Sane again as far as I can tell. I tried asking him about what happened earlier, and he looked at me as if I were batshit crazy. I figure that, if I want answers out of him, I have to get into some hypnosis stuff. Anyone know of a hypnotist for hire? Nah, never mind. Best if I find someone local who'll do it for free. Maybe try to get myself hypnotized as well. I'm sure something is crawling around in there, waiting for me to shout it out to the world. I'll update more when I find someone up for the job. Expect something tomorrow. Part 2, Part 3, submitted by /u or Rod Fred Twatwo link comments. I'm starting to think I'm gonna die in this apartment. The very first time I went over to my boyfriend Matt's apartment, he told me 3 words that took me completely by surprise. "You're not leaving." I thought he was joking, or maybe trying to be cute. "I have to go, babe," I said, planting a gentle kiss on his cheek. "I've got work in the morning." Matt put a hand on my shoulder as I tried to get up, guiding me back down to the couch. I blushed, thinking maybe he wanted to make out a little more before I left, but then he stood up and walked to the door. "It's best if I show you, so you understand what I mean." Matt slipped on his boots, stepped outside, shut the door behind him, and when he turned the key in the lock, the door vanished. I sat on the couch dumbfounded, staring at where the door used to be. "Matt," I called out, completely alone on the 7th floor of an apartment that no longer had an exit. "Matt." I shot up from the couch and rushed to the entryway. The door was simply gone. In fact, there was no evidence that a door had ever been there in the first place. "This isn't funny, Matt," I yelled, pounding on the wall. After 10 minutes of pounding, I had nothing to show for it except for a pair of bruised fists. I grabbed my phone, dialed 9-1-1, and then froze. I was going to sound absolutely insane trying to explain this to the police. I hit call, and there was only static. It was like Matt's apartment was completely cut off from the rest of the world. I tried calling the police for 6 hours until I heard a loud click, and then suddenly the door was back in place as if it had never left. Matt walked into the apartment and said, "Do you understand?" "Matt," I hissed through clenched teeth, "what the fuck is going on?" So many girlfriends have left me in the past, but I changed that. Matt knocked twice on the door in quick succession. "Now you can't leave. Isn't it wonderful? We can be together forever, and I can take care of and provide for you, and you won't need anybody else except for me." And Matt kept explaining how wonderful this was while I planned how I was going to get past him, out the door, and out of his life for good. I figured a sudden bum rush was my best move, but Matt was prepared for it. He stopped me violently before I even made it a few steps to the door. The next few days went basically like that. Matt would leave for work in the morning, leaving me alone in an empty, doorless apartment, and when he got back, I would fight like hell to escape. Matt was a foot taller than me and over 100 pounds heavier, so I didn't stand a chance. When I tried to come at him with one of his kitchen knives, he just laughed. "Yes," he cried, ripping open his buttoned shirt. "Kill me. I can't wait for you to see what happens when I die." That stopped me in my tracks. "What happens when you die?" I muttered, keeping the knife between him and me. "Poof," Matt smiled. "The door goes away for good, and you're stuck in here until you starve." I stopped fighting with him after that. I tentatively accepted that I was trapped. There were some escape attempts over the next few years, but none of them successful. Matt always kept a close eye on me, and he was somehow always strategically positioned between me and the door. "Don't worry," he'd say, "eventually you won't even want to leave." The awful thing was that he was right. I started looking forward to seeing Matt. None of the electronics in the apartment worked when the door was gone, and the isolation and boredom hit me really hard. Matt was my only company, my connection to the outside world, my greatest source of entertainment. It sickened me, but I was happier when he was home. So I embraced my new way of life, waiting patiently for the moment when Matt finally got complacent. I had tried to escape in 100 different ways, each one more dramatic than the last, so it was no surprise that my simplest attempt was the one that finally worked. For Matt's birthday, I made him a feast and kept feeding him until he got so full that he dozed off. A nap is what finally saved me. Matt wore the key to the apartment on a chain around his neck. I very carefully lifted it off him and tiptoed to the door. The sound of the knob turning woke Matt from his food coma. "Wait," he shouted, shooting off the couch like a rocket. "Please stay. We were just starting to build a life together." Matt inched closer, and even though there were a million things I wanted to say, I decided to throw myself out the door instead. Matt scrambled for the knob when I turned the key. Click. It's funny, I could hear Matt pounding on the wall, but it was barely audible, like it was happening miles away. I stood in the hall, free for the first time since I couldn't remember when, and I didn't know what to do. For the longest time, all I knew was Matt. It's sad, but for a moment I thought I might be making a mistake and considered unlocking the door and going back to him. That's when I got an even better idea. I put my palm on the key, leaned all my weight onto it, and broke it off in the lock. The door vanished completely, as well as the sound of Matt pounding. "Consider this our divorce," I said with a grin and walked happily towards the future. Submitted by /u or forgotten well-linked comments. Jim isn't dead. Nobody in town could shut up about Jim Carter the day he went missing. This was normal, I suppose. Small towns always treat any strange thing like it is the only thing that's ever happened, and what happened with Jim was weird enough to leave the entire town speechless. 2 fishermen found him at sunrise down by Blackwater Lake, washed up and tangled in the reeds. Pale, bloated, still, covered in mud. They said he looked dead enough to have been floating in the water for days. One of the fishermen threw up when they rolled him over because his eyes were wide open and filled with sand. The sheriff came, then the ambulance, then half the damn town. Nobody around here can mind their business. They already had him zipped up in a body bag when his corpse started twitching. I wasn't there to see it happen, but I heard about it so much I can see it in my mind. The bag jerking on the stretcher, one of the EMTs screaming, Jim gasping and clawing his way out of the bag like a man who woke up from a nightmare. He coughed out what seemed like a gallon of water before finally calming down. Everyone called it a miracle. His wife sure did. She cried so hard in the parking lot of the hospital, she nearly passed out. Their 2 little girls were holding onto her like they thought their mother would disappear too like Jim if they let go. For a short while, everything seemed fine. Jim came home, people dropped off casseroles and baked goods, and the usual small-town garbage people make when they don't know what else to do. The church said he was God's miracle. His wife, Dana, said they were blessed. Jim smiled and thanked people and said he didn't remember anything when he was gone. But nobody could explain where he had gone. He was missing 5 days prior to washing up. His truck was still parked at home, phone on the kitchen counter, no note, no signs of a kidnapping. Then suddenly there he was, dead and cold in the lake until he wasn't. After a few days, things started going a little wrong. Well, a lot wrong really fucking quick. He would stop in the middle of a conversation and just stare. Not at anything, just ahead like somebody pressed pause. Sometimes it was a few seconds, sometimes minutes. His speech started slurring, words came out thick and wet like his mouth went numb. Dana told everyone it was trauma. Everyone wanted an explanation that made sense, so they grabbed the easiest one. Then came the day at the diner. I was there. I know that part for damn sure. It won't ever leave my mind. It was a Thursday night, busy enough that people were waiting for an open seat. I was at the counter while Jim was 3 booths down with his family. He looked almost normal, even smiled when his littlest showed him a drawing. Then he froze. I just thought it was another blank spell. But then we all noticed. The splatter of blood, the screaming of Dana yelling Jim's name, a steak knife through his hand once, then twice, then over and over again. Everyone tried to get him to stop, but were too scared he would take a stab at them. He started choking. He grabbed his throat with both hands, one of them a bloody mess. His mouth opened wide, and for a moment I thought he was trying to vomit. What came up moved. It pushed past his teeth in a wet, twitching, pale knot. It looked like a fat worm with its little legs curling against its sides, like some kind of horrible thing found at the bottom of the lake. For a second, I thought I was seeing things and his tongue was splitting open. Then I realized that thing was his tongue. It wriggled around while Jim clawed at it, trying to remove it. Get IT out. Get IT the fuck out. He snatched the knife with his uninjured hand and quickly dragged it across his throat, slicing it to bits. People were screaming. His littlest fainted. The other stood there crying so hard nothing came out. The fucking thing detached from his mouth and tried to crawl away, and I watched as the sheriff crushed it under his boot. Nobody slept much that night. Nobody was ready for the morning either. We all woke up, but some to empty beds and personal items left untouched. 12 more people had gone missing today, and we all knew where they were going to wash up. Submitted by /U or Dark Legends Never Die Link comments.